try to understand me more, and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
You're listening to WVGM AM and FM Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming on the VTRN Sports app.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. The CareWatch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your CareWatch for free. Call us to get your CareWatch right now.
800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. That's 800-681-8020.
For over a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. More than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. It's also the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times. A new bill in Congress would ensure this free, reliable service remains in cars. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
UVA coach Ryan Odom recently joined the Fast Lane to talk about how his team will look different from a Tony Bennett-led team.
It is going to look different in JPJ. Shots are going to go up quicker. It's just the way that we play. We're going to crash the offensive glass. That's going to look a little bit different. It's not to say that coaches' teams didn't crash. They did, but they had a very specific way of doing it that's different from the way that we'll do it. I think it's going to be fun for the fans to see a new style in here. And again, goal is winning. And so whatever we have to do to make sure that is the number one important thing, we're going to do that.
Listen to Fast Lane weekday afternoons 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., the VTRN Sports app, and open your smart speaker. Ask VTRN Sports.
You're stepping into the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the Fast Lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
If you've been following social media for the last hour, this is not a surprise. But if you followed it before then and happened to see our post of what we're going to discuss today in the Fast Lane, well,
time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
Appropriately. On a day where I've had a cold for a couple days, but I happen to have 2 7-year-old boys who still fight, don't know how to behave, and talk to you and want you to talk back, even though they know you have a sore throat and need to rest it for your work, both in sales and talking on the radio. This is where we are. Just an explanation. James Franklin hired today officially. Well, not officially hired, but all the reports have come out because the deal has been agreed to between James Franklin and Virginia Tech. We will react more after covering the Commonwealth around 5:45 today here in the Fast Lane. But my one initial takeaway, and I did a trostall.com fast take about this, and you'll hear it if you haven't seen it already at Fast Lane Headlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My one initial takeaway is this. Give the administration at Virginia Tech credit. As clunky as this process has been, from the dismissal of Brent Pry to who's in charge to the 8-person or whatever it was search committee to everything else that's unfolded, they identified their number one target. And while it may have been clunky and it may look like it's overpaid when the financial details come out, and they will, because this is a state school, you can FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and get the data. Virginia Tech got it across the finish line. And at the end of the day, to quote the great Jay Gilbert, my former, compatriot, person I interviewed when I was at ESPN Southside in Martinsville, Virginia. He coached the Bassett Bengals. He's the first one I ever heard utter this phrase about a kicker. They don't ask how it went through the upright. By the way, we're not getting Shane on right now. No. Hey, are you calling Shane? We're not getting Shane on. We're getting Damian on. He's going to go for a while. We'll get Shane on in normal time. We're trying to coordinate with Luke as well today in the Fast Lane, right in the middle of the punchline. To quote the great Jay Gilbert, they don't ask how it went through the upright. They ask if it went through the upright. And so if there's one takeaway initially on James Franklin being hired today by Virginia Tech or agreeing to the deal, announcements will come, if not tonight, surely tomorrow. Inevitably, it's that they got it across the finish line. Now, joining us to discuss this, friend of ours in the Fast Lane, he has been around me on numerous elements of coaching changes in the past. And now we meet again. Damian Sordelat with us in the Fast Lane. Dame, great to have you. Thank you for sharing your expertise from Damian Sordelat on Twitter and Roanoke.com. Is the initial takeaway you have the Virginia Tech administration deserves some semblance of credit for, as clunky as this process was, they got their number 1A target across the finish line?
Yeah, there is. And I'll go back, and I was listening to how you were framing this. You forgot to mention that the Whit Babcock got the university's Board of Visitors to approve an additional $229.2 million in athletic department funding that begins this fiscal year and is going through the next 3 fiscal years. So Franklin saw that. He saw, okay, I know what Brent Pry, my friend and former colleague who spent 11 years with me at Vanderbilt and Penn State, was working with. Now I know how much they're going to be working with moving forward, and it's going to be somewhat on par with Penn State in terms of resources. And, the fact that they're probably going to commit over the life of Franklin's contract. One, we don't know how long it is right now. We don't know all the numbers. Like you were saying, it's probably going to seem astronomical to people, but from what I've heard, we're looking at the ballpark of low 8 figures, high 8 figures, low 9 figures over the length of this contract in terms of what they're going to pay in salary, what they're going to pay to support the program, what they're going to pay for infrastructure, which means you might be getting a football-only building out of this because Franklin wants to employ an army of people. That's your day-to-day operations, that's your recruiting, that's your analysts, your quality control, bring in the top people to be coordinators and assistants and position coaches. So Virginia Tech has proven it's going all in on football because the best return on investment for what you get for media rights from the ACC and your success initiative from the ACC is football. So they're going all in on football. And as Babcock said at the Board of Visitors meeting back in August, you have to spend money to make money. And you also have to spend money to lose. And I think Virginia Tech and the Board of Visitors realize you rather spend money and win and to get a good return on investment when it comes from your media rights deal with the ACC and your success initiative through the ACC. Get that money back because more eyeballs are going to be interested in Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's probably going to win immediately with James Franklin in the ACC. And if you're able to do that, more eyeballs, better results will equal a better payout for the Hokies when it comes to, what the ACC is distributing to the schools unevenly beginning this year and moving forward.
There are a lot of angles that we will discuss with Damian Sordelet on the pulse of James Franklin of Virginia Tech as the news came down a little over an hour ago, and he's with us here in the fast lane from Roanoke.com. Damian, the contract itself for James Franklin from Virginia Tech, are we looking at one of these gargantuan 10-plus year deals? Are you thinking closer to 5 to 6 years? How are you thinking in terms of the contract, its structure, its buyout, and the initial commitment to James Franklin?
It's probably going to be 5 to 7 years. That's how Virginia Tech has typically done it. So I think part of the holdup and why this didn't get done sooner, and from what I've heard and other people have heard as well, is that any job that James Franklin got that was going to pay him more than $8 million a year would negate the buyout from Penn State. So he was going to get nothing from Penn State for being fired without cause. So essentially the holdup was either getting a settlement with that to where Penn State, paid them a certain amount just for the buyout, or it's going to be where it looks like this contract's going to be somewhat backloaded. So that way James Franklin gets something from Virginia Tech plus your buyout payout from Penn State. That's something that I guess we'll find out in the coming days when they release the contract terms. They do that at all the introductory press conferences. So hopefully we'll see that here, whether that's Tuesday or whether that's Wednesday, when they introduce Franklin to Virginia Tech. So that's what I'm expecting. Not a long-term deal, but there's going to be one where you're looking at, I don't know if it's going to be $10 million a year or maybe closer to 12, but it's one of those where Franklin's going to be getting 7 figures a year over the course of this deal. And I think he's worth it because now you're playing in the same level playing field as Florida State and UNC and Clemson when it comes to head coach compensation. And that's something that was part of Babcock's proposal, that when you looked at it, Virginia Tech was not very competitive in that realm under Brent Pry, who's making $4.8 million a year. And he was 44th among the private school coaches in terms of salary last year, according to the USA Today database. So now Virginia Tech is on par with the upper echelon of the ACC, and it's going to be probably on par with what some of the big name programs are paying their coaches. So I think Virginia Tech's like, all right, we want to play with the big boys now, and they got James Franklin.
They do. Virginia Tech secures their target. They're 1A James Franklin, next head football coach. Damian Sordelet, Roanoke.com, has the article up there, and he's discussing it with us and recapping some of his articles. You can go to Roanoke.com to get the full article from Damian Sordelet, or check him out at Damian Sordelet on Twitter, as Dame is joining us here in the fast lane. How close was this to coming apart? Was it ever really in doubt, especially as reports leaked out late last week that Virginia Tech wanted an update by today?
I don't think it was. I think it goes back to the lawyer stuff with Penn State in terms of, how is the buyout going to be affected by him taking the job at Virginia Tech, and the fact that Virginia Tech was willing to give him a pay raise compared to what he was making at Penn State. I think his last year, he was coaching earlier this year. I think he was making $8.5 million. And now he's getting a pay raise because Virginia Tech feels like he is deserving of it. And I think that's kind of the holdup. Everyone was pointing to today being the ideal day because the Board of Visitors are currently meeting up in Arlington at the Virginia Tech Academic Center. And meeting closes at 6. And I think there was a closed session for about an hour today. And I think that's about the time that, they probably were working things out. And it doesn't surprise me that news leaked out here before the close of business day, because I think that's when, the board felt like it was ready. And James, and that's probably when they made the official offer to Franklin, get the offer in hand and just get the signature on it. And by all accounts, Franklin's been to Blacksburg several times to look at houses. He's a mid-Atlantic guy, grew up in Pennsylvania, and you see from the success he had recruiting, especially in Virginia. If you look at his time there, 26 players who were ranked in the top 26 according to the 247 Sports Composite from Virginia signed with Penn State. He twice got the top-ranked player from Virginia to go to Penn State, and there was one year where he got 6 of the top 12 players from the state of Virginia to sign with Penn State. So he's very familiar with this area. He's very familiar with recruiting Virginia. So I see him probably bringing like an Anthony Poindexter to keep that up. And I would think he's probably going to retain Fontel Mines, Elijah Brooks for starters. Don't know if that means, Matt Moore, J.C. Price, the offensive and defensive line coaches respectively, if they're going to be up there in terms of retention. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But, from all accounts, I don't think this was ever not going to get done. It was just a matter of, getting the lawyers to figure things out and then getting his John Hancock on the contract.
Damian Sordelat of Roanoke.com with us in the fast lane. It is the news of the last 73 minutes or so. James Franklin to Virginia Tech as their new head football coach. Dame, you brought up the possibility of Anthony Poindexter being the defensive coordinator, Fontel Mines sticking around. I mean, what's next? Are we just going to have Marcus Hagans as the offensive coordinator and the announcement comes after Virginia Tech wins at Virginia once again in another week and change on the VTRN Sports app? I mean, is that how this is going to go down? Virginia Tech just totally trolling Virginia?
It might be, but you have to look at it from this perspective. Fontel Mines kept getting pay raises and new titles at Virginia Tech because Penn State was trying to poach him. Heck, I think even Shane Beamer in South Carolina tried to poach him because they understood that he's a good position coach and he's an even better recruiter, especially in Virginia. And, that's a priority for Franklin, is getting the players to Blacksburg now, and then they'll develop them. We've seen with James Franklin, he gets quite a bit out of the players he gets. And, 6-9 win seasons during his time at Penn State. I think 4 or 5 of them were 11 win seasons. So he's consistently produced winners. And I'll bring up something about now signing, is that now he can be at practices during these next 2 weeks. He can be at games. So not only is he looking at the staff and being able to see how the staff works up close, he gets to take a closer look at these players, because nowadays player retention, since you have yearly free agency with the transfer portal, is big. I mean, the portal is going to open January 2nd. So now James Franklin gets a chance to see, the players on the roster, see, okay, who do I want to make the effort to retain? Who do I want to make sure stays in the fold? And also with Miami being in town, ranked number 14 in the Associated Press top 25 poll this week, it's a sellout crowd. I have a feeling this is going to be a huge recruiting weekend because because now recruits are going to be interested in now taking visits to Virginia Tech just because Franklin's in charge now and he's going to be the one who will be there, talking to them. So not only looking at players, looking at current players on the roster, looking at staff members to see who he wants to keep in town, recruiting. Those are big things. And it's going to be a very hectic first week here for James Franklin, just because you're going to have a lot to set up for Saturday's noon kickoff. And then in terms of, trolling UVA, depending on the outcome, you might need to do some of that to ease the sting of, UVA possibly winning, first win since 2019 in this series. There's a lot to digest. I don't know if Marcus Hagans is going to be up there. I think Tech's probably going to look for, some bigger names for OC and DC, because I'll admit this, the pool for those types of assistants is going to be much bigger than it was than it currently is, with Montgomery and Cephas making about $1.4 million a year. I think Tech's going to probably be between $2 and $3 million for coordinators now, because they want to play with the big boys, and I think they'll pay to be in that league.
Damian Sorlet with us here in the Fast Lane from Roanoke.com. He has been all over the developing news of the day, which is James Franklin to be the next head football coach at Virginia Tech, as that came down right around 4 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon. Damian, the delay as well, was there a part of the delay that also was the fact that James Franklin was able to use the last couple of weeks to pitch prospective recruits, whether it's ones on the radar of Virginia Tech, ones that were committed to him at Penn State, or ones that he was recruiting from Penn State that may not have wanted to go there or may not have decided, and saying, hypothetically, what would it be like if I went to Virginia Tech? Because you don't have to worry about any type of recruiting restrictions when he's not technically tied to any place.
Yeah, when you're a private citizen, you can kind of do whatever you want, right? I think that was another reason why you wait. I also think his agent, Jimmy Sexton, probably was trying to squeeze every last penny, rest in peace to that coin, out of Virginia Tech. And also, gauging the market of, okay, what is Arkansas? Is there any interest there? Is there a possibility Florida State could come open? We see with Maryland retaining Mike Loxley. Is there a possibility James Franklin could go back there because he coached there and was the coach in waiting under Ralph Friedgen, but that never happened? Could NC State have made a play if Dave Dorn chooses to retire at the end of the year? I don't think James Franklin wanted to come. I think that's why Sexton didn't want Franklin off the board so soon, because now this is going to set the market for what coaches' contracts are going to look like this cycle. And I think Franklin realized with 2 weeks left, if Virginia Tech's where he wanted to be and where his family wanted to be, you might as well get it done now. And like you said, now you get a chance. I know he's had a chance as a private citizen to go out and have these conversations. And there's recruiting sites that are out there that have talked to players, and they're like, yeah, Franklin's been talking to us. We're interested wherever he goes. Yeah, it was a benefit, and it's all gearing up to this weekend, because now I have a feeling you're going to see a massive amount of players making visits, whether official or unofficial, to gauge their interest in Virginia Tech and, get a chance to get on campus and have Franklin sell them.
Damian, we'll wrap it up on this, and we are grateful for your time on short notice to discuss James Franklin to Virginia Tech as their next head football coach, in the news coming down earlier this afternoon. That being, what percentage of effectiveness will James Franklin have at Penn State or at Virginia Tech that he was? Will he be 100% as effective at Virginia Tech as he was at Penn State in terms of luring the top players and being able to put them in a spot to win? Will it be 75%? Will it be 50%? What is your anticipation of the way Virginia Tech is equipping James Franklin that he'll be able to be close to as effective as he was at Penn State?
Yeah, I think he can match his effectiveness at Virginia Tech because, again, the resources that Virginia Tech is setting aside for football will probably match, if not exceed, Penn State. I've heard NIL there's going to be a massive amount of NIL going to, like, NIL effort going to football. That's on top of the rev share that football already gets. So Virginia Tech is going to be a big player in that realm, much bigger than it was under this last cycle, because I remember Brent Price saying, like, we weren't going to pay a player X amount, but we knew if we could get multiple players for like the same amount as one player was asking, then that's good for us when it comes to NIL. I don't think that's going to be a problem where you're crunching the numbers and trying to get and moneyball this. Now you can go out there and actually swing for the fences for some players who can make a difference. And I'm thinking quarterback, probably thinking restocking the defensive line, because you only got 2 defensive tackles who are coming back out of what's been a really good rotation this year, and that's Kamari Copeland and Emmett Law. So you're going to need to restock the cupboard there, bolstering the offensive line, which has actually improved over the year, but you're losing your most versatile piece in Tomas Remack. You're going to have to get some more offensive linemen to help out that group. And then I mentioned quarterback. I think you have to throw whatever bag you need to keep Marcellus Hawkins and Jeff Overton. But then upgrading the secondary, upgrading linebacker play. I think if you can do that and you have the resources now to offer competitive NIL packages to bring those players there, I think you do it. And I think that's the playground he's going to be, the sandbox that he's going to be working in, and that he will be able to be as effective as he was at Penn State. And he's not going up against Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon on a yearly basis. Next year's schedule, which is to be determined right now, you're at Clemson. That's going to be a big game. You're at Miami, another big game. So you're going to get a chance to show what you can do in year one. And I know everyone looks at Franklin's record against top 10 teams, and everyone's going to look at that, but he was a proven winner. And I have a feeling he's going to be able to win the games he's supposed to, which for Virginia Tech, it hasn't happened. Maybe since Fuente's first year, Tech hasn't been able to consistently win the games it's supposed to win. And I think with Franklin, you'll be able to do that. And that's why I think you'll be able to match what he was able to do at Penn State in terms of effectiveness and being able to bring in the top talent and develop them and turn them into really good players that are able to go to the next level.
Dame, do you have time for one more? Because to get my usher on for a moment, I must confess, when you were bringing up the Franklin Beamer comparisons and the difficulty of Franklin in big games, is this the ultimate reality for Virginia Tech? Even if James Franklin may not be the most successful coaching hire that Virginia Tech could have obtained in this cycle. So, like, take out Lane Kiffin if he goes to LSU and dominates. That's a different deal. Is it the thing Virginia Tech needed to do to say to the rest of college football, we are serious in an era where people are eyeing 2030 as the breakaway point where Virginia Tech does not want to get left behind?
Yeah. Honestly, I think Andy Bitter on Tech Sideline wrote this, that James Franklin's credentials coming to Virginia Tech might make him the best hire for an ACC program, maybe outside Mark Richt. So, I mean, he brings a good pedigree. He brings he's a winner. And so, this proves that Tech's ready to compete. And like you said, and Whit Babcock brought this up at the Board of Visitors meeting too, about 2030 being a pivotal time with all these media rights contracts expiring, not only with the conferences, but the NCAA tournament is going to have a TV renegotiating period at that time. College football playoff, the TV contract's going to be up at that time. That's when you're probably going to see the shuffle to whether you might see, the breakaway for the Super Leagues. And I think Virginia Tech with Franklin coming on board definitely sets the tone that they're ready to compete at that level. And now if you can put together results and you get Virginia Tech back into relevance on the national scale, that changes the complexion of a lot of things, especially the way people perceive Virginia Tech again. And if you can get Virginia Tech back into relevance as it was during those heydays of the late 90s, almost through the first decade of the 2000s, I think that's going to be a big thing for Virginia Tech to reinvigorate the fan base. And, and frankly, I'll quote a lot of media talking heads, football is better and the ACC is better when Virginia Tech is winning. And that's going to be big if Virginia Tech can get to that point where people are talking about them in a favorable light.
Dame, thank you for the insight, for the great round of perspective, and of course, your in-depth analysis. We appreciate your time on short notice, joining us in the fast lane and sharing your insight from Damian Sordelet on Twitter and Roanoke.com.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Our pleasure. Damian Sordelet with us here on short notice in the fast lane. We'll chime in with a bit of our thoughts in a little bit, but when we return, the delayed commentary we were going to provide on JMU and Virginia Tech. We will let our experts get to that, plus Dan Fouts of Virginia Amateur Sports on the Star City Half Marathon and 10K, which unfortunately I will miss this weekend. Fortunately, because Jefferson Forest is into the second round of the playoffs. Unfortunately, because they're at a school that does not have lights. So we'll get to that
Hey,
next.
small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. It also delivers vital emergency information when your community needs it most. A new bill in Congress would ensure AM radio stays in your car, because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service is critical. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
I'm Shanola Hampton. Every day, millions of people face hunger. Today, I will share with you some of their experiences. I'm stuck between paying for medications or paying for food. John from Maine. After paying my bills, I can buy groceries. It's sad to say, food comes last. Alice from Oregon. I thought pantries were for less fortunate people, but anybody could be less fortunate in a day or even a second. Claire from Virginia. The Feeding America network of food banks helps provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. No one should have to worry where their next meal will come from. Together, we can end hunger. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
For 250 years, our armed forces have bravely served America. Wounded Warrior Project honors that legacy by supporting post-9/11 service members and veterans like Anthony, a Marine who was injured by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan.
They carried me through my injuries, not just my physical, but my mental. And seeing other vets doing the same thing helped me tell myself, hey, you can do this.
Join us in honoring warriors at woundedwarriorproject.org/America.
UVA coach Ryan Odom recently joined the Fast Lane to talk about how his team will look different from a Tony Bennett-led team.
It is going to look different in JPJ. Shots are going to go up quicker. It's just the way that we play. We're going to crash the offensive glass. That's going to look a little bit different. It's not to say that coaches' teams didn't crash. They did, but they had a very specific way of doing it that's different from the way that we'll do it. I think it's going to be fun for the fans to see a new style in here. And again, goal is winning. And so whatever we have to do to make sure that is the number one important thing, we're going to do that.
Listen to Fast Lane weekday afternoons 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., the VTRN Sports app, and open your smart speaker, ask VTRN Sports. UVA coach Ryan Odom recently joined the Fast Lane to talk about how his team will look different from a Tony Bennett-led team.
It is going to look different in JPJ. Shots are going to go up quicker. It's just the way that we play. We're going to crash the offensive glass. That's going to look a little bit different. It's not to say that coaches' teams didn't crash. They did, but they had a very specific way of doing it that's different from the way that we'll do it. I think it's going to be fun for the fans to see a new style in here. And again, goal is winning. And so whatever we have to do to make sure that is the number one important thing, we're going to do that.
Listen to Fast Lane weekday afternoons 5 to 6 p.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., the VTRN Sports app, and open your smart speaker, ask VTRN Sports.
Do you want to experience the benefit of radio and digital advertising for your business, but have no or limited funds to advertise? Let us tell you about InsaneRadioDeals.com. No cash needed. We will advertise your business on our 8 over-the-air AM and FM stations and our digital platforms that distribute out news talk, sports, and classic hits in exchange for gift cards, tickets, or experiences that will be used for your business. This allows you to advertise across the entire Virginia Talk Radio network without any cash needed, and to generate a large amount of new business. Last year, we started over 900,000 streams on our online platforms, so VTRN and InsaneRadioDeals.com is the place where your business gets heard. Want to learn more? Call Melinda 434-534-8500 or email info@VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com.
Monday on the morning warm-up, complete reaction to the weekend, including UVA getting one step closer to heading to Charlotte for an ACC championship game appearance after a dominant win over Duke. Hokies fall to Florida State, and Liberty loses another one in conference play. Tuesday, we're talking UVA with Preston Willett from the Saber and the Who's On podcast. Join us on the morning warm-up, weekday morning, 7 to 8 a.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 a.m., and on the VTRN Sports app.
Hi, I'm Zach Mackey, the voice of Virginia Tech Hokies men's basketball. Start jumping. This is your home for the Hokies. VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Believe it or not, there are actually tentacles of the news of James Franklin of Virginia Tech that go beyond Blacksburg. And we can touch on that right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
Does it change anything about Bob Chesney's future at JMU? We will get to the immediate part of the Dukes and another impressive win in a moment. But in the spirit of the news today, as we welcome in Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com. Shane, great to be speaking with you once again here in the Fast Lane. Does the news of James Franklin of Virginia Tech change anything about Bob Chesney, or has he had enough success that there are always and were always going to be multiple suitors out there, meaning there's a good chance that somebody will covet him, even if it's not the folks in Blacksburg?
I mean, I think he's definitely going to be on the market this off season just because of the success they've had, and there's going to be a ton of openings. But it does get a little more interesting. I think that Virginia Tech now appears to be filled. Maryland isn't going to open apparently, so some of those jobs where you would expected him to maybe be like a main candidate potentially just because of the geography and the familiarity with the area, they able to recruit these areas. I guess it does change that a little bit. I mean, the other really interesting thing is Virginia Tech and JMU are on each other's schedules next year. That always would have been something to keep in mind if Bob Chesney would have gone to Virginia Tech and probably taken some players with him and everything. But it's really too early to tell exactly what's going to happen in the off season. But, I think he's definitely going to be a guy who's coveted by some other programs as well.
Are there any that worry you, or is the reality of where JMU is financially in spot that's so different, not to mention just conference-wise, that it's going to be hard for them to match the accessibility and the financials of any of the other Power 4 programs that might covet Bob Chesney?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a job that he likes in the Power 4, it's going to be really hard for JMU to match that financially. I think he's going to want to go someplace where he can win. But, the interesting thing is, I think back to last December when Kurt Cignetti chose to go to Indiana, and everybody's like, Indiana, like he can't win there. But we don't really know what schools are doing to make their football programs winners right now, how much they're investing in NIL facilities and everything else. So, it'll be really, really interesting just to see what jobs are open and what seems like a good fit for him once this season starts to wind down.
Shane Metlin, DNRonline.com, with us in the Fast Lane. To the action itself, JMU dismantled Appalachian State. How much of that was the emphasis on getting revenge on the last couple of years, but last year in Boone in particular? How much of it is maybe a heightened awareness, even if not stated by JMU, that style points matter if they're going to have a chance to make it deeper than just being Sun Belt champions?
I think a little bit of both. It was a hyper-focused JMU team. We'll say that they were locked in. Even people who, talk to some of the bigger boosters and stuff before the game who maybe had been around the team were amazed how locked in they were pre-game for that one. I think they wanted to get get some of that back, some of those guys who've been on the team and lost to App State a couple times. And also, like you said, I think there is a little bit of awareness that they've got to play. They're not going to not just win. They really kind of need to play well here these last few weeks if they want to get to the college football playoff. They talked to the defensive guys who were in there for press conferences today talking about, how they were a little bit upset about giving up some yards to Marshall in a game that they went out and won and got a road win. And, that all looks good to me to go win on the road against the conference team. But, they wanted more than just a win. They wanted to make it look good. And they definitely did that against App State.
Other takeaways from that, is it more the defensiveness in Appalachian State hardly moved the football? Or was it the fact that Alonzo Barnett in particular had that rough start, but after that he bounced back and was totally locked in?
It was both. I mean, I think the fact that the defense was so dominant kind of almost overshadows that. That's the most yards they've put up in a game this season, like even more than the ODU game. And they put up more than 600 yards here a couple times in the past month or so, which, I wouldn't have guessed that would be the case when you looked at them play early in the season. So I think it was both. I mean, they just dominated both sides of the ball on Saturday against Appalachian State.
Shane, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. We greatly appreciate it. Last one for you. How tricky is Saturday's matchup against a Washington State team that doesn't have a conference, but unlike Oregon State, who was left out in the cold with the Pac-12 dissolving, Washington State, they've given a lot of team fits this year.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Just because you look at Washington State's results, they just get blown off the field by North Texas, but hang really close with UVA, Ole Miss, some really good teams. So I don't really know quite what to expect from Washington State. And what they're going to do as far as traveling across the country, stuff like that, that can take a toll on you. But I think it's a team that's capable of doing some big things when you look at what they did against a team like Ole Miss. But you just don't really know what you're getting week to week with Washington State.
Shane, thank you for your time. We know we are getting week to week from you here in the Fast Lane and at DNRonline.com. And we appreciate your time today here in the Fast Lane.
All right, thanks.
Shane Mettler with us here in the Fast Lane.
Now to the Virginia Cavaliers.
JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. Virginia, how much was that victory against Duke a statement win in the sense that there were so many questions about Virginia leading into the loss against Wake Forest, and then there was the thought that, that's when the bubble burst. Instead, they bounced back and controlled that game in Durham from the get-go.
I think everyone was surprised that Virginia was able to go into Durham and dominate Duke the way it did. I mean, pretty much every facet of the game went Virginia's way. And I think part of it was the fact that Chandler Morris was back and healthy. And I think they had a real soul searching going on the week after the Wake Forest game, that they knew that they had blown an opportunity there and felt like that they had beaten themselves more than Wake had beaten them. So they knew the only way to stay in the ACC race was to go into Duke and bear down and play as hard as they have all year. And that's what they did. I mean, the defense completely shut down Duke, which not many people have this year. And the offense was a lot more impressive than it has been over the past few weeks. So it was a pretty much complete game by the Cavaliers.
Was part of that attitude a sense that Virginia has been disrespected, and they have been in a lot of close games, but it culminated against Wake Forest and Virginia wanting to say that's really not who they were, and they had 3 games, really 2 if you count the 2 guaranteed at Duke, the bye, and then Virginia Tech, to set the record of what they really are as a team in potentially getting to Charlotte for the ACC championship.
Yeah, I think they did. I mean, they were really upset with themselves that they let that Wake game get away, and it was a lot self-inflicted with Morris getting hurt early. Of course, they didn't have any control over that, but the punt return for 88 yards was inexcusable. They had breakdowns that they addressed, and you're playing a rookie quarterback who turned it over a couple times, and Jamari Taylor was stripped on a good play by the Wake guy that probably stopped them from winning at the end. And it was very atypical of him to do that. He made up for it Saturday, I think, at Duke with another 100-yard performance, and the offensive line dominated a pretty good defensive front for Duke. And the secondary was just unbelievably good, and keeping Duke's passing game under control. Their quarterback, Menza, was averaging 310 yards passing a game and was number 2 in the nation in passing yards per game and ranked high in other categories. And they just completely shut that down, which, again, not many opponents have been able to do that to him all season long. Maybe no one else. Stop and think about it.
Hootie, we'll pivot over to basketball. Dominating wins against Hampton and Marshall over the weekend for the Virginia Cavaliers and Ryan Odom's squad. How much are you putting into what you've seen, given that they really have not faced a stiff opponent just yet?
Yeah, I think they've used these games well, Ed, to experiment a little bit with combinations and to build chemistry on the team and to find out a little bit more about these guys. And I think they realize that they haven't stepped up in competition yet, something that they'll do this weekend over at the Greenbrier against Northwestern and Butler. But I think they've used this time well just to make incremental improvements to everyone's game and to see a little bit more about what works, what doesn't work. And I think it's made them a better basketball team. They've improved week by week, and this weekend is another big step up the ladder.
We climb the ladder of insight at JarrettRatcliffe.com. Hootie, great to be speaking with you in the fast lane. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, Ed. We'll see you soon.
Jarrett Ratcliffe with us in the fast lane.
And last but not least, or maybe least,
Dan Phelps, President, Virginia Amateur Sports, with us in the fast lane. And yes, to get my usher on, I was all set to run the Star City half marathon and 10K. I was going to do the 10K this Saturday. And then, I'm not joking here, I learned that John Hanley High School does not have lights. That's where Jefferson Forest Cavalier football, presented by TrostLaw.com, will have to go for the second round. And because they don't have lights, they have to play on Saturday, and it is logistically impossible to both run the race, even if I could run as fast as I possibly could, and get up there in time for the broadcast. So, unfortunately, it's not on the radar. I am going to miss this. This is an awesome event. It's one of my favorite races to run every year that I'm able to, because it's not just the race itself, but the festive feel around it, from the cheerleaders that lead you out and back at the start-finish line to the home-cooked meals that the civic organizations provide, and, of course, the finisher medals and the Triple Crown medals if you complete the Roanoke Triple Crown, which features the Blue Ridge Marathon, Half Marathon, and 8K, and the Salem Half Marathon and 8K, all are highlights. So, to fill us in on the rest of it, Dan Phelps, President, Virginia Amateur Sports. Dan, of those staples and highlights, when you think of the Star City Half Marathon 10K, which one or ones stand out in your mind the most?
Well, I think the post-race party and the bling certainly bring a whole lot to it. The history of this race, it's one of the oldest endurance races in the Roanoke Valley area. I believe the Salem run was probably the first. It's probably over 50 years old. And we know we're over 40, 45 years old. Depends on who you talk to. But we coin our race as flat and fast with a bump in the road. And that hill that you have to climb there in that little section of the neighborhood that you go through before you get back onto the Greenway. And the post-race festivities with the beer and the DJ and the cheerleaders, as you mentioned, lots of great things going on. So it's a good way to prepare yourself for the holidays.
It is. It's a good way to run off calories, get in that early deficit before Thanksgiving and Christmas. Dan Phelps, President, Virginia Amateur Sports, with us here discussing the Star City Half Marathon and 10K. You mentioned the course itself and the fact that this course has now taken a couple of years. How has the reception around this course varied from when people may have been unsure at the beginning when it went from the downtown Roanoke course to the one that incorporates a good chunk of the Greenway to now with people having had multiple years getting used to this?
Yeah, I think for the most part, people like it. I know that the greater running community would like to see it back on the streets in Roanoke. But, when we talk to the folks at the city of Roanoke, we want to keep this race affordable, for people to come, for the final leg of the Triple Crown, as you mentioned, but also the money that the city of Roanoke has put into the Greenway. That was their intentions, years ago, to budget that. And the Greenway continues to grow. And so they want us to be able to use that. If we went with going back to the running through downtown and that type thing, as you know, back during COVID, we lost a lot of police officers. And we just did not have the personnel to man those intersections that needed to be manned. We could probably look at doing that in a few years down the road, but that's an increased cost as well. So, it's like I said, the race is coined flat and fast with the bump in the road.
CommonwealthGames.org. There is still time to register for the Star City Half Marathon and 10K, plus the Kids Fun Run this coming Saturday in Roanoke. It's an awesome event. It's one of my favorites, one that I wish I could still be at and will sorely miss this year, but always mark it on my calendar. Dan, volunteers, true or false? It's never too late to volunteer, including if you become available race morning, you can show up and your trusty advisor, Charity Waldron, will find something for you to do.
Absolutely. And we're still down a few volunteers. It's tough because, it's a morning race. The first race goes off at 8 o'clock. So, I've got a couple spots to fill there. Please reach out to us on our website, reach out to me directly. Or Charity, and we'll get you a spot, get you to do something. It's going to be a fun day. And those William Fleming, they're in the playoffs, and just like last year they were. Those cheerleaders will be there at 7:30 in the morning after driving for 3 hours back home. So they're very dedicated to our community.
Yes, they are. That is one of the highlights. They send you off on the course. And the best part is they greet you when you're getting ready to cross the finish line, making it feel that much more awesome. It's always awesome. The Star City Half Marathon and 10K every single year, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, including this coming Saturday. It's easy to register, to run, to walk, to volunteer. CommonwealthGames.org. Dan, thank you for your time again in the Fast Lane. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Ed. And I'm sorry you can't make it this year.
Indeed. Appreciate it. Time to connect with Dan Fouts. When we return, time for another quick observation or two on James Franklin to Virginia Tech when we return to wrap up the Fast Lane.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost. Our staff at Trost Law wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Most importantly, please celebrate responsibly. At Trost Law, we have experience handling all types of personal injury cases. Sadly, that means we've seen the devastating impact from drinking and driving. So on behalf of our team at Trost Law, please plan ahead. Select your designated driver this holiday season. And if you've been the victim of a drinking or drugged driver, we're here to help. Visit us at trostlaw.com.
In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard. and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos.
Going once, going twice, gone! This is the last year you can have Terrell E. Mosley install a new qualifying heat pump and get a $2,000 federal tax credit. If your current system is over 10 years old, you should seriously consider updating your system and take advantage of this tax credit. Not to mention, a new, more energy-efficient system will also save you on your electric bill. Call Terrell E. Mosley. It's a free service for them to come and discuss the options available to you. Don't miss out. Call Terrell E. Mosley or visit them at terrellemosley.com.
Is it time for a new place to call home? Moving out on your own? Perhaps your existing lease is up for renewal. Looking for a new roommate? Or maybe you just need a change of scenery. Then you need to check out brownstoneproperties.com. We have Central Virginia's largest selection of apartments, townhomes, and single-family homes. Applying is easy with our online application. Visit us online to begin your search at brownstoneproperties.com.
One of the many things I'm thankful for this year is InsaneRadioDeals.com, because the best deals are all there for you. Liberty Flames football tickets, InsaneRadioDeals.com. Gift cards to Oliver's on Rivermont, Caribbean Jerk Pod, JD's Cafe, downtown Cairo, InsaneRadioDeals.com. Great deals just in time for the holiday season at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Honestly, I'm not sure whether you'll get the James Franklin who overachieved at Vanderbilt, the James Franklin that was really strong at Penn State against the less talented teams he faced, but struggled in those closer games. But I will say this about the hiring. There are reasons to believe it might not have the full merits that you would want in terms of the results. James Franklin of Virginia Tech at least is a symbolically good hire for Virginia Tech because it sends the symbol to the fan base at Virginia Tech and to those around Virginia Tech that there is the desire to compete at the highest level. If you're hiring James Franklin, you're getting into bed, first of all, with Jimmy Sexton, who's his agent. Also, in hiring James Franklin, you're bringing in a guy that is going to demand a huge financial commitment. Player rosters, Damian Sordelette brought that up earlier. I've seen this elsewhere. There may be between NIL and rev share $30 million a year in player activation. As much as a football-only center is something that seems like it's going to happen now for Virginia Tech, and Damian Sordelette, when he joined us from Roanoke.com, indicated as such. If you missed it, Fastlane, Headline, wherever you listen to podcasts. There are still concerns that I would say are very reasonable and legitimate about James Franklin as far as what he can do from an X's and O's tactical standpoint. And the biggest comparison, perhaps of any of the comparisons that we've seen right now regarding James Franklin and his success or potential failures that might transfer over to Virginia Tech, are in particular the challenges for him in close score football games. 2-21 all time at Penn State against AP top 6 opponents. The only coach worse than that was Frank Beamer, 2-24. Worse, ironically, than George Welsh at 2-20. But what it says is if that's your cap with James Franklin at Virginia Tech, you will at least be in a better spot, in a more desirable spot, where if you move on from James Franklin, it's going to be easier to convince the next coach after James Franklin. Even though it will probably be expensive to get rid of James Franklin, it will be easier to convince the next coach if James Franklin at least gets you to the point where you're bumping your head on the ceiling and you're routinely a 9-10 win team. That, hey, this is what you can be. The next coach doesn't need to rebuild it the way James Franklin has, but merely needs to come in and fine-tune to take it up a notch. Now, going from bad to good, I think is easier than good to great. When you're bad, everybody that sticks around understands they've got to change to get better. When you go from good to great, you're trying to really extract a small percentage of skills out of other people. And that's part of what you need to do to get a better program. But I think those are reasonable thoughts to consider about James Franklin. Tomorrow, more on that. Uncle Luke slated to offer his perspective, plus Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com slated to join us. Busy tomorrow to recap the news. James Franklin of Virginia Tech tomorrow in the Fast Lane.
Thanks for listening to The Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVG.